fucking Biden voters who didn't know what you were getting yourself into, who are now steeped in buyer's remorse, probably trying to save your house and or job insurance. Or maybe you have a prison member in your family that is a result of his crime bill. But here's a bit of remorse for you all the way down. The cognitive decline king, the pariah of plagiarism, wants everybody to know he's okay, even though he is a far cry from anything nearing that venue. Welcome to the fucking post-war show. This one's going to be pretty informative, so open your ears, folks. Good evening, everybody. It's April 21st of 2021. My name is Derek Nash. I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Post-War Show. I've got a virtual cornucopia of topics to go over with you tonight. The first of which, definitely the most significant, I think, is the unraveling of the establishment propaganda piece that was the Russian bounties, where allegedly Putin, the Kremlin, had been paying Afghan Taliban soldiers cash money for every U.S. soldier that they managed to kill in the occupation, really is all you can call it now, of Afghanistan. Now, try to remember when this dropped, and I'm going to give you some supporting evidence in a moment, but this dropped story-wise by the New York Times about 9 months ago at a really critical time for Donald Trump. And again, I am not pro-Trump. Trump has decimated Afghanistan. We now have more private contractors, mercenaries, private military contractors there at a 7-to-1 ratio than our troops. And yeah, Trump didn't do us any favors in that regard. He did a few good things, and I love the fact that he was not a part of the deep state. However, this story came out and had a big effect not only on Trump, but the Democratic primary, many different things. So the first of which, it broke exactly when Trump was trying to make his initial maneuverings to pull, with a full withdrawal, the troops from Afghanistan. They dropped this as a propaganda piece to serve a purpose, or multiple purposes really, and it did exactly that. It prevented the troops from leaving, and it was a Democratic establishment talking point for months and months and months, and all the way up until 4 days ago, when the White House press secretary Jen Psaki came out and said, according to the Daily Beast, and I have her live in the interview saying it, that the entirety of the U.S. military apparatus, so all your alphabet soup agencies, have low to moderate faith that this is true. And like they say in the Daily Beast, that's just military spy jargon for saying, yeah, we're pretty sure this isn't true. We definitely don't have any proof, and this isn't egg on our face. It's a blemish or whatever. So yeah, I love the fact that Trump was trying to pull the troops out. That's great. But it's just sickening what this propaganda does to this country. So let's rewind the clock 9 months. Let's take a look at what the establishment was doing. Let's hear from the Trump camp, and then let's bring it up to speed and see the radical pivot that now that the Dems are in control, they're willing to, fess up to this shit, when it was their deep state working against Trump in the first place that placed this false story into the mainstream narrative and shoved it all up in your face if you're watching the mainstream channels, glued to your television set like a good little consumer conformist American. Let's run that now.
We get new details from intelligence officials in Europe who've confirmed to CNN that Russian officers put bounties on American and British troops serving in Afghanistan.
That's right. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh joins us now. And Nick, you actually spoke with intelligence officials. They confirmed that reporting.
Just for the sake of clarity, I have to iterate, anytime that they have to refer to a former CIA propagandist or a former U.S. intelligence official, those are still people being paid to peddle propaganda. So red flags should be going up immediately when you hear any terms relative to those. This is why you need to be watching independent media. Let me allow this shit show to continue.
The White House also responding tonight to a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, with President Trump denying he was ever briefed on the allegations. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Tonight, backlash from a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties on U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan.
If it is true, underline the word if, that they are paying surrogates to kill Americans, this is one of the most serious matters, I think, that has arisen in the Trump administration.
The New York Times first reporting that Russian intelligence officers offered to pay the Taliban to kill American troops amid peace talks to end America's longest war. A military official confirming the report to ABC News. The report also states that the president was briefed on the disturbing allegations. Today, President Trump denying that in a tweet. Nobody briefed or told me, Vice President Pence, or Chief of Staff Mark Meadows about the so-called attacks on our troops in Afghanistan by Russians.
This is as bad as it gets.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi calling the president's response outrageous, speculating the Russians have damaging information on him.
I don't know what the Russians have on the president politically, personally, financially, or whatever it is.
Nor can I find any adhesives that properly seal my dentures to my gums. Fucking Nancy Pelosi, war criminal. She should be jailed until death. Free fucking Julian Assange. Leave the journalists alone. Let's put the fucking war criminals where they belong. People, if you don't start to see it and start talking about it, you are going to find yourself in a place you never dreamed was possible as a U.S. citizen. This is the entirety of both parties working in tandem to get Trump out. They would have rather had Trump than Bernie Sanders, for sure. But, yeah, they would much rather have a participant in the deep state with the ability to completely surrender themselves as a vessel to the donor class and military industrial complex, which Donald Trump wasn't. He had that asshole that was just on, John Bolton, one of the biggest warmongering neocons ever to exist, been trying to go back to war with Iran since Iran took their embassy back. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that Trump was able to withstand such a hate-filled cabinet that was just so hell-bent on feeding that military-industrial complex. Now you see with the Biden admin, we're already dropping bombs on Syria before we get our checks. What the fuck is up with that? More false flags there. I actually predicted that. If you go back, I predicted it two days before it happened in one of my 3 predictions for the Biden administration. Not to gloat, just a bit of credibility to, shine on my channel. Give you guys a little bit more confidence in the content that you're seeing. So I'm going to go to Jimmy Dore has the best segment where it's just one after the other, so you can just get an idea of the volume of propaganda they were putting out during this vital time.
Now, you guys remember this story, the story that the Russians were paying Talibanis to kill us? Well, it was reported like this.
In our Worldly Today, President Trump dismissing the Russian bounty intelligence story as a hoax meant to damage him and Republicans. The president often touts his relationship with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin.
The White House also responding tonight to a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
Bombshell.
And now you know from this reporting in the New York Times, which has since been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, that not only does the president...
It's confirmed! It's now been confirmed by some other jagoffs who lied to you on the regular.
...know that Russia was paying for American soldiers' deaths.
News. Get this. The Washington Post is now reporting that the alleged Russian bounties to Taliban fighters in Afghanistan are believed to have resulted in the deaths of U.S. troops.
Like this New York Times story about a stunning U.S. intel assessment, finding that Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill U.S. troops.
So comes under fire over those bombshell reports that the White House was told Russia was paying bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
The most important application of that question is, what did the president know about Vladimir Putin offering a bounty for the killing of American soldiers in Afghanistan, and when did he know it?
A senior Afghan official confirmed to CBS News that the reports were not only true, but the Russian government achieved some success with their plans.
Barry Cayley, I cannot tell a lie McEnany, insists the president does in fact read everything he needs to read. We need to look at the real threat to U.S. troops and the risk that Russia was putting a bounty on their heads.
That Americans found out this weekend that Vladimir Putin is paying to put bounties on the heads of American troops.
Telling CNN that the White House was warned about Russia offering bounties, actual bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
He's not even there yet. He's still suggesting that the reporting about the fact that there were these bounties offered is fake. Meanwhile, your organization, the New York Times and others, are getting some fairly detailed reporting about how it actually works.
Despite those denials over and over, sources tell CNN that last week the U.S. even shared that intelligence with British officials, as some of the British troops would have been targeted as well.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
You know why it's unbelievable? Because it didn't happen. In fact, because now, how do we know? This is from the Daily Beast. U.S. intel walks back the claim that Russians put bounties on American troops. And it says, turn around. They walked it back, and then they tripped over it a few hundred times.
They certainly did. So the Daily Beast is like The Guardian. A lot of these sideline papers that are really owned by Bloomberg or whomever that are trying to appear just like AOC. They're trying to appear like a progressive or a different perspective, a different voice. And in reality, they are just peddling a different wing of propaganda for the establishment. So for the Daily Beast to walk it back, I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then Press Secretary Jen Psaki hit the floor shortly thereafter. She is, just as Kayleigh McEnany was last for Donald Trump, the mouthpiece for the sitting death rattle of a president of the United States that we have at the moment. So let's take a look.
It reports that Russia encouraged Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. The word report seems to leave some ambiguity. Does the White House believe Russia placed bounties on American troops?
Well, I would say first that we felt the reports were enough of a cause of concern that we wanted our intelligence community to look into those reports as a part of this overall assessment. They assessed with low to moderate confidence, as you alluded to, that Russian intelligence officers sought to encourage Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan.
You mean you fucking lied the whole time?
The reason that they have low to moderate confidence in this judgment is in part because it relies on detainee reporting.
It relies on detainee reporting, meaning that we tortured people until they told us what we wanted to hear, or they were so desperate to get out from under the charges that they're facing. Either way, they know it's bullshit whenever the U.S. intelligence apparatus combined all the alphabet soup agencies, because the initial report was just the CIA exclusively. The NSA went hard against it. The generals on the ground went hard against it. That's why a lot of us sniffed it out from the beginning. And now they're just using these euphemisms to try to reduce the embarrassment, because it is a fucking embarrassment. You guys use this as a tool to politically maneuver people via propaganda successfully, and now you have to explain yourself, and that's the fucking best that you got, is Jen Psaki stuttering her ass off on stage. I would rather have Sarah Sanders' ugly ass up there giving me half-truths than this bitch giving me outright lies on the regular.
And due to the challenging environment, and also due to the challenging operating environment in Afghanistan. So it's challenging to gather this intelligence and this data.
And it's more challenging for me to get up here and lie my ass off than I ever thought it was going to be, because this one is a fucking doozy.
So while there's low to moderate assessment of these reports, we felt it was important for our intelligence community to look into it. And we, of course, will not stand by and accept the targeting of our personnel by any elements, including a foreign state actor. This information really puts the burden on Russia and the Russian government to explain their engagement here. Go ahead.
Jen, given that assessment, does the president have any regrets for how many times he attacked President Trump on the campaign about this issue for not taking action related to the Russian bounties?
Well, I'm not going to speak to the previous administration, but I will say that we had enough concern about these reports and about the targeting of our men and women serving, the men and women who are proudly serving around the world, that we wanted our intelligence community to look into it. Now, again, there are several factors that contributed to the low to moderate confidence in the judgment, including the difficulty of the operating environment, and of course the reliance on detainee reporting. At the same time, we still feel there are questions to be answered by the Russian government.
Yes, folks, you all heard that right. While there is low to moderate confidence in these assessments, meaning they don't believe it happened, there's no proof that it happened, and they're trying to save face, they're sanctioning Russia anyway. They're penalizing Russia for something they can't come close to even fucking proving. That is beyond provoking somebody, you know? They're trying to bait Russia as well. We're trying to bait the world so we can keep manufacturing consent among the public, among the international community, and I don't know what else to say. The fucking evidence is right there before you. If you're drinking the Kool-Aid, stop. So, what are the implications, ramifications, consequences moving forward? And there are many. You've got the Afghanistan element. Biden just announced that he's pushing Trump's promise to withdraw all troops by May. I forget the date, but it was in May, to the anniversary of 9/11, which is fucked up. He wants to move them out on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. So my hypothesis on what Biden's doing is he's going to shave down the number of troops, even though, like I said, the military private contractors, the mercenaries, outnumber the troops 7-1. They'll hold steady, and they're going to try to bait the Taliban into doing something. The Taliban's already said that they're going to be actively engaged in protest, maybe actual military action. So I think that Biden's doing the old, he's gonna bait and switch them, which will give us more reason to prolong our stay in Afghanistan, which does give us some leverage into. It's a crucial point strategically when you consider Russia, China, Iran, etc. The countries that aren't willing to let us just pillage their resources and then pay our contractors to build their cities back up after we bomb the shit out of them. Me personally, I'm rooting for the other guys. I hate to say it, but this is going in no direction that I see us coming out on top. If people would do the research, get their head out of the sand, and go third party, we'd have a shot. So a lot of people don't realize in 1992, Ross Perot was the third party candidate. His entire platform was anti-NAFTA. He wanted to keep the jobs, the manufacturing jobs here, which is completely different from the two people he was running against, the titans of politics, which were Bush Sr., who was the incumbent, on false pretenses entered a war and he won it, which is usually a pretty good recipe for retaining a presidency after the first 4 years. And then you had the sweet-talking Bill Clinton, who appeared to be just contrasted the opposite, but really was another parasite marionette funded by the donor class and the military-industrial complex. And he took vital steps to further decentralize Wall Street, revoke Glass-Steagall, so many terrible things that Bill Clinton did that I can't list it in the context of this episode. It would require its own episode. The point is, Ross Perot, just on that platform, pulled 25%. So the next time somebody tells you that your protest vote or your third party vote doesn't count for this reason or that, you need to let them know that this is the only country in the world with 2 parties. Germany has 9. Norway has 8 or 9. All the other modern countries, they have voices for all their people. That's why they're not spending more on military than the 10 top spenders put together. So watch this clip by Ross Perot. We'll bring it back around full circle.
The candidates will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. So, President Bush, I think you said it earlier, let's get it on.
Let's go.
And I think the first question is over here.
Yes, I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Perot. What will you do as president to open foreign markets to fair competition from American business and to stop unfair competition here at home from foreign countries so that we can bring jobs back to the United States?
That's right at the top of my agenda. We've shipped millions of jobs overseas, and we have a strange situation because we have a process in Washington where after you've served for a while, you cash in, become a foreign lobbyist, make $30,000 a month, then take a leave, work on presidential campaigns, make sure you got good contacts, and then go back out. Now, if you just want to get down to brass tacks, first thing you ought to do is get all these folks who've got these one-way trade agreements that we've negotiated over the years and say, fellas, we'll take the same deal we gave you. And they'll gridlock right at that point because, for example, we've got international competitors who simply could not unload their cars off the ships if they had to comply. You see, if it was a two-way street, just couldn't do it. We have got to stop sending jobs overseas. To those of you in the audience who are business people, pretty simple. If you're paying $12, $13, $14 an hour for factory workers, and you can move your factory south of the border, pay $1 an hour for labor, hire a young 25, that's assuming you've been in business for a long time, you've got a mature workforce. Pay $1 an hour for your labor, have no health care, that's the most expensive single element making a car, have no environmental controls, no pollution controls, and no retirement, and you don't care about anything but making money, there will be a giant sucking sound going south. So if the people send me to Washington, the first thing I'll do is study that 2,000-page agreement and make sure it's a two-way street. One last point here. I decided I was dumb and didn't understand it, so I called a who's who of the folks who've been around it. And I said, why won't everybody go south? They said, we'll be disruptive. I said, for how long? I finally got them up for 12 to 15 years. And I said, well, how does it stop being disruptive? And that is when their jobs come up from $1 an hour to $6 an hour and ours go down to $6 an hour, then it's leveled again. But in the meantime, you've wrecked the country with these kinds of deals. We've got to cut it out.
Thank you, Mr. Perot. I see that the president...
I see that your incumbent president's hand is up in all likelihood to stop this crazy propaganda from spreading. The PBS NewsHour, which was the only platform that Perot could even get himself on, and still managed to pull 25%. Listen to the issues, people, not the platitudes, not the bullshit. You got to learn to read between the lines, and send me a comment. I'm happy to help you with that.
So I wipe out 100% of the caliphate. I say I want to bring our troops back home. The place went crazy. They want to keep, you have people here in Washington, they never want to leave.
Are about how you further tighten the financial pressure on Iran in particular, if it also means economic pain for a lot of our allies.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. One of the problems, not specifically on this issue, just in general, let's put it this way, money trumps